gotta love, I've gotta love. I've got a place in this old heart. I wanna tell you that I won't any way I can. I wanna take you in my arms, I do. I'll light a flame and let it burn. And if I ran, then I would run to every time. By my side, your place. By my side is where I'll be. By my side forever. I wanna talk, I wanna talk. I wanna tell you anything I do. And when I go and when I leave, it's you on my mind. I wanna vanish in the night with you. I wanna take you around the town, I do. I'm gonna make some kind of life for you any way I can. By my side is where I'll be. By my side, your place. By my side forever. And I will always try and move away. By my side, by my side forevermore.
You stayed up in Pilot, I lived in Crowley Town. Needed me to get you from your mother's house. Baby, I'll be there to put on your lavender, perfume in a nice dress. Girl, I hope you like this. Midnight black on the outside, inside you and I leather last week. Fell deep in a romance, way back when we did. deep in the romance. In the backseat we did. Sailing up the highway, you smoke with the windows down, reflection in the rear view, fading lights in town. I know you can't stay too late, I'll have you home in time. Let's find a place of silence beyond the county line. Midnight black on the outside, inside you and I leather and ice cream. Fell deep in the romance, way back then we did. Midnight black on the outside, inside you and I leather and ice cream. Fell deep in the romance, in the backseat we did. Midnight black on the outside, inside you and I leather and ice cream. Fell deep in the romance, in the backseat we did. Midnight black on the outside, inside you and I leather and ice cream. Fell deep in the romance, in the backseat we did. Midnight black on the outside. Midnight black on the outside. I remember how it was back then. We were just young ones. And on that night, you said you loved me softly. The haze on the window. Had to borrow my mama's car that night. Come and scoop you. This was some good fun. We had a great time. I wonder where you are now. So if you hear this, let me know. Oh, maybe we can go again. Oh yeah. Sometimes I forget how I know you. All tied up in my own story. But it's easier when you're standing there. I'm lost in my own way. I know I can't afford to lose you now, lose you. So I'll be yours to keep when nothing
in between. And I will surrender all of my glory for you, dear. And I'll be yours to keep always. How can you miss someone you've never met? 'Cause I need you now, but I don't know you yet. But can you find me soon, because I'm in my head? Yeah, I need you now, but I don't know you yet. 'Cause lately it's been hard. They're selling me for parts, and I don't wanna be modern art, but I only got half a heart to give to you. How can you miss someone you've never seen? Well, tell me, are your eyes brown, blue, or green? And do you like it with sugar and cream? Or do you take it straight, or just like me? Yeah, lately it's been hard. They're selling me for parts, and I don't wanna be modern art, but I only got half a heart to give to you, and I hope it's enough. How can you miss someone you've never met? 'Cause I need you now, but I don't know you yet. But can you find me soon, because I'm in my head? Yeah, I need you now, but I don't know you yet. I need you now, but I don't know you yet. I need you now, but I don't know you yet. I need you now, but I don't know you yet. I need you now, but I don't know you yet.
Still wait for you.
Tall and proud and good when times were bad. Too much heart is the only fault that I see. This song's not for you folks, it's for my dad. Always a partner, a playmate and a teacher, ready with a joke when times were sad. And in my teens, sometimes he was a preacher. This song's not for you folks, it's for my dad. He always was a rock when I needed one. He gave me good advice when I needed some. I want you to know that when it's said and done, he's one of the best friends I ever had. This song's not for you folks, it's for my dad. He always was a rock when I needed one. He gave me good advice when I needed some. I want you to know that when it's said and done, he's one of the best friends I ever had, or I ever had. This song's not for you folks, it's for my dad. Of course I like you folks, but I
Welcome everybody. Welcome to the service of Mr. Alan Dick Sherwell. Before I start, I'd like you to know that each of you are invited to join the family for some drinks and tall tales at Harrop Park after the service. I'd like to ask those family members who have a token to come forward and leave them with Dick now. Thank you. On behalf of Rose and their children, Andrew, Nanette and Britt, I say thank you for joining us this morning as we celebrate Dick's 84 years of a life lived fully. And as Dick would say, it's bloody marvellous to see you all here. My name's Tracy, and it's my honour to present this service on behalf of Dick's family, as well as the Returned and Services League of Queensland. There's no doubt that this is a sad day. Saying goodbye to a good mate is never easy. Better we choose to use today to celebrate the life of a good man, a man who served his country, who deeply loved his wife, cared and loved for each of his children, his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren. I'd like to share with you now a poem written for Dick by a good mate, T.H. Logan, and it's called My Mate Dick. At the crack of dawn, he'd roll up to start a brand new day. You could set your clock on him. He'd be there to show the way. He came when times were different, when we danced to another tune. But time stands still for no man, and change comes all too soon. On dusty roads you'd find him pulling gravel with his blade, aboard his trusty Aveling, or having smoko in the shade. He's built so many roads, knows the Shire through and through, from west to Rocky Waterholes and north to Yalbaroo. He's seen many come and go, and his stories range so wide. Even hearing them 20 times cannot stem the tide. But the world loves a character, and that's who we have here, as we listen to his favourite yarns and have a quiet beer. For he'll do no man any injury and lend you his last dime. He's just a great kid at heart that you can count on every time. He'd always take on the hoi polloi and mix it with the brass. Many's the exec that Dick took on and sat them on their ass. But times have changed, and people too are all politically correct. No more shall we solve our differences when jaw and fist connect. So what about his record of jobs done well and true? He's blackened half the Shire's roads and many a street renew. And now it's time for him to take a break and let Father Time run free, to take his rose and head for Perth and other ports to see. Somewhere along the track he touched each one of us some way, a favour here, an understanding word, or maybe even just a friendly g'day. But he's done it all without reward or even thinking about our thanks. It's second nature to a guy who just was full of pranks. So I guess it's time to tell you, Dick, we'll miss your ugly mug. But most of all, I'm sure we'll miss the sunshine of your smile. So take a well-earned rest, old mate, and leave us all behind. May the road come up to meet you, and the God of travellers be kind. That poem was written for his retirement, but seemed very apt for today. And I was also saying to Brett, it's probably a good thing he was a hoarder, otherwise we wouldn't have heard that one. What I'd like to do now is invite Andrew, Dick's son-in-law, to come and share the eulogy that's been prepared by his family.
Dick was born at Nambour Hospital on the 14th of January 1936, the fifth of 6 boys to Bill and Nell Sherwell. He grew up on the family's dairy farm in Geelong on the Mapleton Range with his brothers George, Bob, Bunny, Duke and Keith. He loved life on the farm and the freedom that came with it. He told stories of getting up at dawn, wearing hessian sacks and no shoes and going to bring the cows in. They would go camping all weekend with their guns and sack bags. They rode draft horses to Geelong School, where he reported that he learnt about the birds and the bees by peeping up through the floorboards. At the visiting soldiers, he came to see the female teachers at the school. He finished his schooling at 14. This was his only regret in life, and he often talked about how he wished he'd had a better education. Dick and his brother Duke and their childhood friends Bill and Fred referred to themselves as the Mountain Men, but we won't go into stories associated with that. Dick joined the Navy when he was 18, along with his brother Duke, and he became a gunner. He loved his 6 years in the Navy, and it was a huge influence on his life. It won't be a surprise to most of you that he got into a wee bit of mischief and spent a fair bit of time in the brig. Dick and Rose met in 1965 in Kyabram, Victoria, on a working holiday. He approached Rose at a dance with the line, "You wouldn't have a a light for an old digger, would you? And he fell in love. They married in September the same year. They moved back to Rose's hometown of Mackay and adopted 2 children, Andrew and Nanette, and soon after came Britt. Dick loved his family and showed it by working hard, attending sports, family holidays to the Sunshine Coast, sailing adventures, water skiing and more. He was a patient, tolerant and calm parent. If he got mad, you knew you were in really big trouble. The kids spent their childhood weekends at Imeo Beach, where Dick and Rose sailed their caper cat, El Toro Purpu, and then their Hobie cat, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Dick worked as a road construction foreman on the Pioneer Shire and then in the amalgamated Mackay City Council for 35 years until his retirement. As a little fella, his son Andrew, known as Blue, described him as the leader of the men. He enjoyed his work and he had the respect of his workers. Work hard and play hard were Dick's mottos. He loved to party. If Dick was coming to your party, you knew you were in for a good time. He loved a drink or 20, and his quick wit, storytelling and jokes meant he was always the life of the party. He had lifelong friends in Bill, Fred, Jeff, Sandy and John, and touched the lives of many others. He also shared a close relationship with his niece Leslie and her partner Tom and family, and his cousin Trevor and Rose's family. Dick became a grandfather to Dylan at 57, his little Bungie. He was the love of his life. He embraced his role as Da and spent countless hours indulging Dylan, watching his sports, attending school events, taking him on holidays. 5 years later came Zeke, his Zeke boy, and Dick's gift of spending time was given to him as well. More kicking balls, skate parks and sports. Dick was there capturing every moment with his trusty video camera. Dylan would even say, "Camera me, Da," and the boys would review their videos, loving to see themselves on the screen. The bond between these two and Dick was something else. Ronan came along when Dick was 67, followed by Georgia 2 years later. Although they were geographically distant, Dick worked his magic and developed strong bonds with the two of them. Ronan and his larrikin personality he inherited from his granddad, and his first granddaughter Georgia led to special relationships. Ronan describes his granddad as his favourite old fella and loved getting up to mischief with him. Dick loved teasing Georgia and having conversations about all sorts of topics. And then, in an extra special treat, his great-granddaughter, Sataya, Bubba, was born in 2019. At 83, he was still on his hands and knees, chasing her around the house, her squealing with delight. The other big love in Dick's life was his dog, Pumbaa. She was his little buddy, on walks, for naps, reading the paper, and in general life. He would get off the chair and sit on the floor to let Pumbaa in. Rose was always the greatest love of Dick's life. He was not demonstrable in his affection, but in his final years, as illness began to take him, he openly expressed his love and affection of Rose and his family. Dick had a story to tell and a joke for every occasion. So, in a final tribute to Dick, I'd like to ask, in the 1967 Irish sheepdog trials, how many were found guilty?
It was beautiful, thank you. Now I know there's a few people who have words they'd like to share, so I'll invite Britt to come forward first, and then you'll be invited after that. Thank you.
Hello everybody. I'll move that a bit higher because I'm tall. Okay. I'm speaking on behalf of Nanette, who was meant to come up with me. She didn't come. And Andrew. So Andrew has done a letter, which I'll read out for him. Hey Dad, it's Andrew, your son. I just wanted you to know how great you are as a father. It takes a special and courageous person to adopt 2 children, as well as 1 natural child, and bring them up, and we always felt safe and loved. All of my mates' dads when I was growing up weren't like you. You supported everything we wanted to do, and you were always at all of our sports, any event actually, and you always accepted our friends and treated them well. As a family, we always had a fantastic time on school holidays. Every weekend was awesome at the Catamaran Club, with half of the neighbourhood tagging along, which never seemed to bother you. As a teenager, all my friends wanted you to attend their parties because you were the life of the party. When I was in trouble, you supported me. Beth and I live a simple and happy life, and when I have a problem, I ask myself, what would Dad do? I mean this from my heart, Dad. You are the best man I've ever met, and I feel privileged, proud, and lucky and special to have you as my father. Thank you. I love you. From your son, Andrew. You going to read yours? Yeah. Okay.
This is a poem for my dad. They say you can't choose family, but I feel rather blessed that I was given a special man who stands out from the rest. He nurtured me through childhood and gave me sage advice, like always wear clean underwear and to be courteous and nice. Teenagers can be traumatic, and I gave him my share of stress. But despite my tantrums and late nights, he never loved me any less. As I grew up and I flew the coop on adventures far and wide, I've always felt that his wise words were right there by my side. These days, we got to spend more time together on our own, to simply chat about our life or to have a good old moan. Yet one of his hugs is all it takes to solve my latest woes. I love you, Dad, completely, from my head down to my toes.
I've got a lot to say because I often do. So, yes, get comfortable. I'm happy to say that I have no regrets in my relationship with my dad. Nothing went unsaid. He knew that I loved him and I knew that he loved me. And I was there with Mum and Nanette holding his hand when he took his final breath. Even though it was hard to watch Dad these last few months, it was also a cherished privilege being able to help in his care. Tucking him in at night, getting up to him through the night, listening to him singing and rambling. The circle of life really is real. Even during this time, he maintained his sense of humour, cheekily calling out and wiggling the bed to make his alarm go off. When you asked how he was, he'd say, "Up the shit," and then he'd laugh. And while his mind was tortured with confusion, he'd laugh and say, "I don't have a bloody clue what's going on." Dad was always a lovable larrikin. Everybody loved him, and if they didn't, he didn't care less. He always said if you didn't like a man, you didn't know him well enough. But that didn't apply to his sister-in-law, Fran, who he really didn't like, and to someone from Bowls, who he also really didn't like. So he obviously didn't know them well enough. He said exactly what he was thinking, and luckily his delivery mostly left people laughing rather than punching him out. He had nicknames to everyone, and even if they didn't like them, they just laughed because it was Dick. He had some favourite sayings, like, "Don't forget Pearl Bailey." When asked if he'd like a drink, "Is the Pope Catholic? Does a bear shit in the woods?" He always accused people of having short arms and long pockets when it came to their turn to shout. At the end of the party, he'd always have a roadie, or 10. When you just arrived for a visit, "How long you stopping?" And when he was ready for people to leave, he would say to Mum, "If we turn the lights out and go to bed, do you reckon they'd go home?" He was also somewhat of an enigma because he loved classical music and ballet, but he also loved getting on the drinks and partying with his mates and telling dirty jokes. He was the ultimate storyteller. You never knew if the story was true or if you'd just been suckered into a joke. My friends and Nan and Andrew's friends all loved Dad, even the one he gave concussion to at Andrew's 21st by hitting him over the head with an axe handle. But he actually hit him in the stomach first, and then as he went forward, he whacked him over the back of the head because he thought he was in a fight, but he got the wrong person. Dad's behaviour was actually quite offensive at times, but he always got away with it. When Mum was talking to an old mate, Sepho, this week, he summed it up by saying, he wasn't really the best role model, but we all looked up to Dick. Dad was the best grandfather. He spent so much time with his grandkids and they all adored him. He was more than a granddad to Dylan and Zeke. He played such a significant role in their lives. Losing his Zeke broke his heart. Amongst the many happy memories of Dylan's childhood, Dylan also gave Dad the gift of a great-granddaughter, Sataya. Dad and Ronan share a larrikin personality. They love getting up to mischief together. On our cruise to New Zealand, they really upset the fellow passengers, playing the bosun's horn in the pub. Apparently they were there for a nice quiet drink, and Dad suggested perhaps you don't have a nice quiet drink in a bar. And Dad loved George's intelligence. He loved listening to her talk about animals, nature, science and art. He also loved teasing her, and you could often hear George's exasperated, "Grandad, you're so immature." I was also lucky that my dad had a great relationship with my husband, Andrew. I'll be forever grateful for the support that Andrew provided in the months that Dad was unwell, and the bond that they shared. Dad cried and told us that Andrew was a god because he helped him do a poo. Dad was often in his own little world and he was pretty vague. One of his good friends, John McCormack, said if he was any more laid back, he'd be in a coma. He'd often go missing for hours, wandering around, filming things to look at, and then we'd all have to sit down and watch the videos from it. After we'd called the police going, "Where are you?" He actually was brought home by the police once in Adelaide because he couldn't find his way back to my brother's house. Dad was also a very keen gardener, hence the rake here today. He loved raking, pruning plants into oblivion, even if they'd just been planted, and digging drains. That was Mum's favourite. He was like an old bush turkey scratching around in the garden. Mum did not love Dad's gardening. I've never heard her swear so much about anything. The other thing that happened in their relationship was that they spent a significant amount of their time looking for Dad's glasses and hearing aids. He didn't ask for help, but you'd see him walking out going, oh. And then Mum would just get up and start helping him look for them. Half the time they were already on his face. I could count on one hand the amount of times I've seen my dad lose his cool. These were usually related to us kids. And as an adult, I said to Mum, I wish that I'd inherited his patience. When Hayley and Kristen and I capsised his Hobie in the middle of Kinchin Dam and he spent hours uprighting it, he was a bit cross. In our defence, there was a hole in the mast, and when they were over one night, Dad later told us that he'd fixed the hole with Loctite, and if you put it in your arsehole, you'd never shit again. And we were like, oh, cool, thanks, Dad. Some of you might not know this, but Dad also had a really important role as the self-appointed mayor of East Gordon Street. So across the road from us used to be mangroves, but when they started developing that, Dad was there, filming it, telling everyone what to do. If they questioned him, he'd be like, do you know who I am? And when he attended the drinks at the new hotel when they opened that, he let them know that he was the self-appointed mayor of East Gordon Street. Mum and Dad were together 55 years. They had the best times and the worst times, but they always stuck together. Mum said she was so lucky to have a man who always loved her. She also said he was the only person she's ever wanted to kill. She put up with Dad's shenanigans. Luckily, she was perfect, so he didn't have to worry about anything. Mum was an amazing carer for Dad when he was unwell in his final months, and it was truly wonderful to see the love they still shared during this time. Dad outlived his 5 brothers, and the Sherwell boys were well known on the Sunshine Coast, and Dad's passing is the end of an era, but they live on in their families. As with most old people, Dad attended a lot of funerals, and he was perplexed by the concept of a memorial. You can't have a funeral without a coffin, he used to say. So he'll be very happy that he's proudly on display here. And Nanette and I dressed him and he made sure he looked beautiful in his navy tie and his navy hat, and he looked fantastic. Love you, Dad. I'm relieved your suffering is over. Thanks for everything you gave to all of us, and you'll be sorely missed. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you. Thank you. Do you want me to stay here?
G'day. I'd like to start off by, as Grandad would say, fuck the Japs. I've got a couple stories. I got a couple of Grandad's old stories, and you know, as he would say, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. So I don't know how true these ones are.
Fred's here, he'll know.
Yeah, exactly. He can verify. I remember a while ago, this is a classic, he used to tell me all the time when I was a little fella, about his old little Bradford motor car with the canvas top and all his boys that he used to get from the Lifesavers. And they were all going down to the pub one time. They'd just gotten back, and they used to have to get out and push the thing because it only had like 20 horsepower, just enough to get you over the hill. No brakes. And they have no brakes.
He had a handbrake.
Had a handbrake, that's all that matters. And after the pub one time, he'd gotten up, they were all pissed as anything, flying down a hill, and he flew into one of his relatives, and he was a cop. And geez, they gave him a bloody hiding in that thing. And yeah, that's about where that one ends. Got another one. One of our favourite things me and Dad used to do was go to the beach. And at 83, this is like, would have been last year, Christmas time last year, we'd gone down to King's Beach. There was a king tide, massive waves. And he's like, oh yeah, this will be all right. He goes in head first, dives through this thing, comes out the other side. He goes, oh shit, I don't know how this is going to go. It starts to go down this big wave. I'm with him. I just see the front of his board go over and his legs go flying up in the air. He gets him, he goes, oh, fucking hell. That was a big heap of shit right there, wasn't it? No, I love that bloke with all my heart. It's my old mate. Yeah. One thing, I wouldn't say I never got to share with him. We used to sneak a couple of beers here and there, but one thing I will always have wanted to share was first drink at the bar when I turned 18, so it would have been a month away, but oh well, he'll be there. Yeah. So, thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to share some words at this time?
Morning everybody, my name is Jeff Williamson. I've known Dick since the early 60s. We initially worked together at the council, Pioneer Shire in those days, and went on to play water polo, go surfing, go sailing, skiing, water and snow, and he's one of the best mates you can ever get. Stories about Dick, we could still be here tomorrow if you want to really hear them. A few that I could tell you here. We were in the raft race, Pioneer River, years ago when they used to have the tourist festival. And the guys from the council, we made up a raft with a few bits of bamboo log and some grater tubes. And we were going well. TV camera came up and filmed us. And everyone said, oh, we'll be on TV. Then we realised there was dialogue to it. And obviously I had to cut it because there's a few blue words and a few worse blue words. But anyway, someone on one of the other rafts realised, I've got a knife. So he swam over and he's going to do damage to our tubes. And someone said to Dick, he's got a knife, which in those days meant nothing. So Dick just leaned back and he was on the rear of our raft, and he gave him a little pat behind the ear with those big hands. And someone said, what's he going to do now? And Dick said, I don't know, he's gone. I first met Dick. I didn't meet him, I saw him. We were at a council Christmas party, 1967. And I'd only just joined as a soil tester. And everyone was there, drinking on. And in those days, there was no such thing as high vis. It was navy blue The options were a shirt, singlet, that was it. Well, I looked across, and over there was a man standing in shorts, long socks, which were the trend in those days, open net shirt. I said, who's that? And they said, oh, that's Dick Sherwell. He's the FED rep. I said, oh, what, he doesn't work here? Said, oh, yeah, he works here. Now, as it went on, I started a job as a supervisor there, and Dick was a backhoe driver. And we got to know each other a bit better. And then one Saturday morning, walking down the street, Dick came along. And he was waiting around because he used to pick rows up from Chandler's. And Saturday mornings, Mackay closed at 20 to 12. So we're having a bit of a chat, and he uttered those magic words, would you like a beer? So we went straight into the Whitsunday, and that's the first of a few beers I've had with Dick. And cheers to Dick and everybody today. Thank you.
Never been as tall as you, will I? Yeah, my name's Sandy, and I'm so lucky to have been able to call Dick one of my best mates. There's an endless amount of adjectives that you could use to describe this bloke, but one of the adjectives that suits Dick best is he was simply the nicest bloke I've ever met. And all through my working career, all the training courses I went to does not compare to the humanities that I've learnt off this bloke. He was just simply the nicest bloke. And one of the things Dick used to do to demonstrate these humanities is if you're in a group, he always picked out the most socially awkward person in the group, and he'd wander his way over and make that person feel $1 million and part of the group. And Dick did it countless amounts of time. It was just one of the things he did. And obviously the other adjective you'd use to describe this bloke is the funniest prick I've ever met. And there's no one would even come second, not third. It was daylight second. He was simply the funniest bloke you've ever met. And I won't bore you with too many stories, but we went away to the Central Queensland Hobie Cat titles. And anyway, the first night in the pub there, he's creating havoc amongst all the people that he met. And he was wandering around with his baseball cap on, and he'd scribble out whatever the motive was on the baseball cap, and he'd written, no sea too rough, no muff too tough. Anyway, so he used that as his uniform for that weekend. Anyway, the next day it was blowing 30 knots, and everyone got battered and bruised. Anyway, that night in the pub, Dick had scrubbed out the word, no sea too rough. And anyway, we got on the booze and we wandered home because we'd all camped. And anyway, we got home, and so Dick was just full of fun, continuing to wreak havoc. And he started pulling this tent down. And he says, who belongs to this friggin' tent? He said, oh, yeah, I'll show them who's boss here. Anyway, he pulled the thing down and said, hey, Dick, that's your tent. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak? I'd like to invite you now to look to the screens in front of you as we follow along with Dick's life in pictures and music chosen by his wife and children.
I love to have a beer with Duncan. I love to have a beer with Duncan. We drink in moderation, and we never ever ever get rolling drunk. We drink at the town and country, where the atmosphere is great. I love to have a beer with Duncan, 'cause Duncan's me mate. Yeah, I love to have a beer with Colin. I love to have a beer with Colin. We drink in moderation, and it doesn't really matter if he brings his doll. We drink at the town and country, where the atmosphere atmosphere is great. I love to have a beer with Colin, 'cause Colin's me mate. I love to have a beer with Kevin. Oh, I love to have a beer with Kevin. We drink in moderation, and he drives me home in his big old Chevy. We drink at the town and country, where the atmosphere is great. I love to have a beer with Kevin, 'cause Kevin's me mate. I love to have a beer with Patrick. I love to have a beer with Pat. We drink in moderation, and it wouldn't really matter if the beer was flat. We drink at the town and country, where the atmosphere is great. I love to have a beer with Patrick, 'cause Patrick's me mate. Change key. I love to have a beer with Robert. I love to have a beer with Bob. We drink in moderation, just one more and back on the job. We drink at the town and country, where the atmosphere is great. I love to have a beer with Robert, 'cause Robert's me mate. I love to have a beer with Duncan. Oh, I love to have a beer with Duck. We drink in moderation, and we never ever ever get rolling drunk. We drink at the town and country, where the atmosphere is great. I love to have a beer with Duncan, 'cause Duncan's me mate. I love to have a beer with Duncan, 'cause Duncan's me mate.
It's lonesome away from your kindred and all, by the campfire at night, where the wild dingoes call. But there's nothing so lonesome, morbid or drear, than to stand in the bar of a pub with no beer. Now the publican's anxious for the quota to come, and there's a faraway look on the face of the bum. The maid's gone all cranky and the cook's acting queer. Oh, what a terrible place is a pub with no beer. Then the stockman rides up with his dry, dusty throat. He breasts up to the bar and pulls a wad from his coat. But the smile on his face quickly turns to a sneer as the barman says sadly, the pub's got no beer. Then the swaggy comes in, smothered in dust and flies. He throws down his roll and rubs the sweat from his eyes. But when he is told, he says, "What's this I hear? I've trudged 50 flaming miles to a pub with no beer." There's a dog on the veranda, for his master he waits, but the boss is inside, drinking wine with his mates. He hurries for cover and he cringes in fear. It's no place for a dog round a pub with no beer. Old Billy the blacksmith, the first time in his life, has gone home cold sober to his darling wife. He walks in the kitchen, she says, "You're early, my dear." But then he breaks down and he tells her, the pub's got no beer. So it's lonesome away from your kindred and all, by the campfire at night, where the wild dingoes call. But there's nothing so lonesome, morbid or drear, than to stand in the bar of a pub with no beer.
I'd now like to invite I'd now like to invite Mr Ken Higgins from the Mackay RSL sub-branch to present the poppy service. He'll be supported by bugler Mr Glenn Nicolai from the Marion RSL sub-branch.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, children. I see quite a few children here this morning. My name's Ken Higgins and I'm here today to represent the Mackay RSL as a life member of the League and a returned serviceman, and to celebrate the life of one of its members. On behalf of a grateful nation, all members of the Australian Defence Forces and Queensland RSL, past and present, we offer our deepest condolences to the families and friends of Dick, or Alan, but as he was well known as Dick. In his service record he was Alan, but Dick Sherwell, to a friend we will not forget. We stand here today with loved ones to pay tribute to Dick and those who served in the Defence Force of our country. His close friends will know the quality of his community service in peace, just as we knew of his strength and comradeship during his service in war. And remembering these qualities, we know our friend and mate is at peace. When a serviceman or woman passes away, their comrades gather to pay their respects to a person who has served their country with pride and honour. You will notice that the coffin is draped with the Australian flag, a privilege only bestowed on service personnel and heads of state. I'll now read Dick's service record. There's a statement of service from the Department of Defence, and it's a fairly long, service, I might add. His service number was R50107, which is not a really high number, so back a bit. Category of service, Royal Australian Navy. Date of enlistment, 19th of March 1954, a long time ago. Date of discharge, 18th of March 1960. Employment, he was employed in the services as a cook and also and he was discharged as an able seaman. His postings, now these postings are all over Australia and elsewhere around the world. HMAS Cerberus, HMAS Arunta, HMAS Penguin, HMAS Watson, HMAS Voyager, HMAS Cootamundra, HMAS Barcoo, HMAS Cerberus, HMAS Penguin, Balmoral Naval Hospital, HMAS Narimba. Operational service was HMAS Vengeance, 27th of October 54 to the 3rd of December 54, and HMAS Melbourne. Those who are old enough will remember what Melbourne went through, 25th of March 59 to the 24th of May 59. His honours and awards: Australian Active Service Medal 1945 to 1975 with class for Malaya. Naval General Service Medal 1915 to 62 with class, Malaya. Australian Service Medal 1945-75 with class, FESR, Japan, Korea and PNG. And the class was only bestowed on those for distinguished service. Australian Defence Medal and returned for an Active Serviceman's Medal. We're here today to remember his qualities. We join in silence pledge to put aside whatever differences we may have had with each other, to extend the hand of friendship, to carry on our tradition of unselfish service to the disabled, the bereaved, to the highest ideals of citizenship. May his body rest in peace and his name liveth for evermore. I hold up this poppy. After the following words, I'll put this on the coffin. The service of the day is almost over and the honour has come to rest. This bloody red poppy is traditional emblem of sacrifice, the symbol of life given for your country. It links us to Dick. It is a token of our affectionate and proud remembrance. I will place this here on the abiding memory, and I invite the RSL members and service members to do the same. I now invite the immediate family. I'll put this on the copy. Is any ex-service there? Or the immediate family who would like to place a coffin or keep the poppy for remembrance. Thank you. Now, I now ask you to stand, if you're able, to join me in a silent tribute to Dick. We will have the last post, followed by a moment of silence to remember and reflect on the service of Dick gave to his country. Bugler. They went with song to battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old as we that are left to grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them. Lest we forget. Please be seated. Build no monuments should my turn come. Please do not weep for me and waste your tears. Write not my name on honoured rolls of fame to crumble with man's memory through the years. Wear no dark clothes, speak in no saddened voice. Seek not rare virtues which don't exist. Someone who knew me should be in their daily rounds, suddenly pause, caught by some sight or sound. Some glance, some phrase, some trick of memory's ways. Which brings me to mind, then I shall wait, eager with hope, perhaps to hear how great if you were still here, then all I wish for, he was my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, I will leave you with one last thought. Old warrior, may you rest in peace, immune from earthly strife. Your memory will not be forgotten by those who shared your life. Lest we forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Glenn. And now to our final farewell. To a man who met and loved the love of his life, Rose, and of course his second best love, Pumbaa, and lived an honest life, who could talk with anyone regardless of rank or status, who spent some of the best days of his life on the road with Rosie, living the grain nomad's life, respected by many, who enjoyed a beer or two, and was known to be the life of the party with his dry wit and stories, often leaving people wondering, was that fact or fiction? He was welcoming, and any of his kids' friends who visited quickly became family, leaving with a full belly, an adventure and a story he'd love to share with them. He was patient and calm as a parent with Rose. He provided well for his family because this is how he showed his love and protection of them. As the years gave him more time with his loved ones, he made sure that they knew he was loved by them, and it was heard in his later days at the hospital how lucky he was. Leaving one of his favourite sayings that the best thing a man can do for his children is to love their mother. So too did Dick, Al, Dal, Dad, Grandad, Dada, Gigi, Dick. Thanks for the perfect ironing and the crisp folds, the immaculately clean cars, regardless of how well they went, and your persistent raking. Thank you for loving in your own beautiful way. You've left the legacy in the hearts of your wife, Rose, your children, Andrew, Nanette, Britt, and their children, Zeke, Dylan, Ronan, Georgia, and of course, who has missed Sataya? I don't think I've ever seen anybody dance to the last post. Whilst ever they say his name or share his stories, he will live forever in their hearts. It's a comfort to think that maybe now he's up there kicking the ball around with Zeke. I ask now that you please stand for the closing of the curtain.
Hear your voice, to see you smile, to sit and talk to you a while, to be together the same old way, that would be our greatest wish today. To hear you laugh, to hear you cry, or just a chance to say goodbye, to say the things we didn't say, that would be our greatest wish today. But all we can do is throw a flower on the water, look for the sun through the rain, lay a little frangipani gentle on the water, remember how we loved you.
Please be seated. I'd just like to remind you, in Dick's Way, each of you are invited to join the family at Harrow Park, because I'm sure there's going to be an awful lot of tall tales that can be told, and of course a few beverages. So this concludes the service today. I thank you for your presence, and I wish you a safe journey home. Thank you.
flowers let you choose. A phone call when you're away, just to see if you're okay. To hear your voice, to see you smile, to sit and talk to you a while, to be together the same old way, that would be our greatest wish today. But all we can do is throw a flower on the water, look for the sun through the rain, lay a little frangipani gentle on the water, remember how we loved you, remember how we loved you. All we can do is throw a flower on the water, look for the sun through the rain, lay a little frangipani gentle on the water, remember how we loved you, remember how we loved you. But all we can do is throw a flower, remember how we loved you, look for the sun through the rain, remember how we